Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. It's not at Old Trafford, it's at the O2 in London. I think we briefly touched on this quite a few streams back. It might have been when it was first announced, possibly.
Yeah.
Let's go to you, Josh. You just snuck in there. Give us what your predictions and how you think this one will go.
Yeah, when this was first announced, I kind of raised some eyebrows just given the different divisions the two were in. And I think as it's gotten closer, I'm definitely interested in what will happen. Now, of course, Chris Eubank Jr. is the bigger guy, and Conor Benn, he's shown that he can punch a good deal there at 147. But I would say this is the bigger test for Conor Benn. Eubank Jr. has been in with better opponents thus far in his career, but I think that Conor Benn will certainly give him a test. Do you recall what the stipulation is for this fight?
157.
So 157. Okay.
Rehydration, I think, is 162.
See, I always think about that aspect of it as well, and how that works for Eubank Jr., who is a bigger guy. He's fought at 168, so him getting down to 157, I think, is going to be interesting. So I think Conor Benn is going to look visibly smaller in there in the ring, but I don't know what stamina wise what this does to Chris Eubank Jr. And taking that into account, I think that Ben, if he's able to control the action, and assuming uh, he doesn't get Eubank Jr. out of there at any point early, then I think that second half of the fight could certainly be the story of the fight, and I would likely favor Ben if we're looking at it from the weight stipulation perspective, because I'd imagine he probably is well over 162 typically after he actually weighs in. So those weight stipulations always make it interesting. So I think that everything seems to be a bit more on Conor Benn's side as far as the lead up and everything, and then the stipulations in the contract as far as the weight. So I would say that if it goes the distance, certainly I think that Conor Benn, it'll be interesting for him, and I think he may be able to get the nod. And I'm gonna go with him for this fight, and I think that the weight and the stipulations surrounding hydration is sort of a big factor in why I'm doing so.
Okay, nice. What do you say, Alex? Give us your thoughts.
So you had made a reference to us talking about it previously. I was very critical of this matchup. I don't see what it does for either fighter career wise besides money. But I think I've mentioned it also before. The fight gets a little closer. There's a little more marination. We get content. We get shoulder content and all that. And I'm a little hyped. We just watched the
Mhm.
dads. Like I said, I've been researching into both of them. Both the dads are very likable, in their own sense, right? Like you said, 157 catch weight. I don't think Conor Benn's ever weighed more than 149, 150. Eubanks has fought as high as 168. Rehydration of 162, I think, is absolutely ridiculous because most welterweights, they say they weigh in the same day, 160, 165. I mean, we've seen this fight's at 157. So we've seen guys that are junior middleweights rehydrate to the 170s. So why are we doing 162 when the catch weight's 157? At least give 10, 12 pounds. Um, I've been doing a little bit of research into Eubank because I'll tell you right now, I am going for Eubank Jr. I've enjoyed his career a little bit more. I think he's taken more risk. Not to say Ben hasn't been built up nicely. He's faced a lot of guys that current or former champions have knocked off. So I think it's a beautiful buildup of Ben. But I like Eubank Jr. a little bit more. I say his U.S. travels haven't been really up to how he. I'm sorry. When he came to the U.S., it was expected for him to face Charlo, Andrade, and such, and it was a little disappointing because he never got those fights when he was fighting Billy Joe beforehand. We've seen him fight George Groves. Those are big names in boxing, especially in the UK scene. So that was a little bit of a letdown. But now we're back at a big fight. Um, when I was looking into Eubank fight at 168, he said he had to eat up to that weight.
Yeah.
So maybe this weight isn't going to be as big of a deal as we think. He's eating cheeseburgers, chicken sandwiches, really feeding into it. Seems very dismissive of Conor Benn, saying he's like a nice little fighter, guy that has a lot of tenacity. But I've been at this level. I'm going Eubank. I'm gonna go decision. I don't think it's gonna be a stoppage, but hopefully it's fireworks, as we've seen with the fathers, how they were able with their style clash to give us two good fights.
Yeah, I think I'm edging on that as well. That Eubank by decision, just being he's a boxer, isn't he? He's quite slick, and he should have enough about him probably to keep Conor Benn off him at bay. Colby makes a good point in the chat. He's saying that Eubank Jr. in 4. So if he thinks that if he goes for it, he'd be able to get Conor Benn out of there, unless he starts dancing around him like he did against Liam Williams. And that's a good point, because he was absolutely hammering Williams, and then he just kind of took the foot off the gas, and then he just coasted through the rest of that fight to get the decision win. I know a lot of people think that Ben has the ability and the power and stuff to cause trouble, but we also need to remember the caliber of opposition that he's been in against, and I think that's what you were touching on there, Alex. He's this has come at a really weird time for his career, because it's almost like he's about to hit that next level up of fringe world title contender status, and then Chris Eubank he's been up at that level, and he's kind of finishing, not necessarily finishing up, but he's kind of been there, took a few losses, so it feels like he's more on the downwards curve, and it's timed up a little bit awkwardly, to be fair. So, but yeah, I think that just the fact that they say a good big one beats a good little one, and I think that's kind of what they are. Ben's a bit smaller than Eubank. He's a bit bigger, and he's been in with the better fighters, and he's a bit more seasoned, and I think he'll probably be too good and too slick for Conor Benn. But then, you can't dismiss that he has shown that he's got that explosive power, a bit like his father. So you never know, and I guess that's what makes it an intriguing fight that us as fight fans kind of want to see. And in the UK, it's obviously a huge fight because of the surnames and who the fathers are, as we've just seen. So yeah, I'm going to go with Chris Eubank by decision, along with Josh. Yeah, I think it'll be a good fight.
More so Vega. I think that Ben takes it via decision.
Yes.
Oh, you said, oh, okay, yeah, by decision, okay.
Yeah. I have Ben with the decision, and primarily because of the weight stipulation. And Eubank Jr. is 34 at this point, so of course, knocking off that weight is probably a little bit tougher. And then not being able to fully rehydrate, that has the potential to drain him, especially if this gets into the later rounds. So that's the main reason I'm going with Ben. Things that seem to be set up in his favor more for this fight.